Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Don Arleth, and you're watching World News coming to you live from Warsaw. Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz has confirmed that a drone that hit a village in eastern Poland was a Russian UAV. No injuries were reported, though 3 local houses were damaged. Kosiniak-Kamysz called the incident a Russian provocation.
Russia is once again provoking NATO countries, following drone incidents in Romania, Lithuania and Latvia. Incidents of airspace violations, which have taken place in almost all NATO countries, particularly in Scandinavian countries, Baltic countries, but also in Poland, Romania and Bulgaria. Once again, we're facing provocations from the Russian Federation. Once again, we're seeing a Russian drone during a special time, when discussions about peace are taking place. We're facing this at a time filled with hope for a possible end to the war, which Russia is waging on Ukraine, which also threatens the safety of NATO countries. Russia is once again provoking us.
The incident in Poland comes amid another Russian overnight attack against Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zilinski says Russia attacked several regions of the country with 60 drones and a ballistic missile.
All of these are demonstrative strikes that only confirm the need to put pressure on Moscow, the need to impose new sanctions and tariffs until diplomacy is fully effective. I thank all partners who are helping to stop this Russian war. Together with the United States, Europe, and all those who seek peace, we are working every day to guarantee security. We need strong security guarantees to ensure a truly reliable and lasting peace.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is in Minsk. Today he was received by Belarusian President, self-proclaimed, Alexander Lukashenko. The visit, which began yesterday, is intended to strengthen the Iranian-Belarusian partnership. Tehran emphasizes the expansion of Iranian private businesses to Belarus, and joint investment initiatives will be some of the key issues under discussion during this official state visit. Before traveling to Minsk, Pezeshkian was in Armenia, where memorandums on trade and energy cooperation were signed. The White House confirmed that Vladimir Putin has agreed to meet with President Zilinski. The focus will now be on whether the Kremlin makes good on its promise to the White House. Our correspondent Alex Cardier is following the latest developments from Kyiv.
Well, certainly this meeting confirmed by the White House. Vladimir Putin has said to Donald Trump that he will meet with President Zelensky. A lot of unanswered questions about where it may happen. But frankly, the big question looming over this is if it will happen, if President Putin will make good on his commitment to meet with President Zelensky, and when. There is clearly an appetite from the White House for this to happen as soon as possible. The German Chancellor saying it could happen within 2 weeks. Where? A big question as well. Could it be in the Emirates? Could it be in Geneva? Could it be elsewhere? Vladimir Putin wanting it to happen in Moscow. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, not keen on that idea. But there is also a diplomatic opportunity here. We heard in the White House that Donald Trump thinks that the Russian president wants to make a deal for him. Because of Donald Trump, a lot of skepticism on the European side. They see this meeting as something Vladimir Putin does not want to do. He does not want to deal with Volodymyr Zelensky as a legitimate Ukrainian president, and therefore this is an opportunity, on the European perspective, for Vladimir Putin to show, finally, that actually he does not want peace. He does not want to engage in these negotiations, and show that Donald Trump cannot trust him. In Kyiv, I'm Alex Cardier for TVP World.
Turkey says it supports diplomatic efforts aimed at establishing a lasting peace in Ukraine. The announcement was made by the president's office following a phone call between President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Turkish president's full statement to Vladimir Putin reportedly read, "Turkey supports efforts to establish a permanent peace in Ukraine with the participation of all parties." President Erdogan added that he was closely following developments related to the process and that Turkey has strived for a just peace since the beginning of the war. Last Saturday, in a post on social media, Erdogan said Turkey welcomed the new momentum in the efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that resolving security issues without Moscow involved in the process, quote, will not work. Lavrov was referring to the guarantees Ukraine would receive from its Western allies in the event of a peace deal ending the war.
We cannot agree with the proposal to resolve security issues, collective security issues without the Russian Federation. This will not work. We have already explained more than once that Russia does not exaggerate its interests, but will ensure our legitimate interests firmly and harshly. And I am sure that in the West, first and foremost in the United States, they understand perfectly well that seriously discussing security without the Russian Federation is a utopia. It is a road to nowhere.
Switzerland is prepared to grant Vladimir Putin immunity from arrest if he travels to Geneva for peace negotiations, said Swiss Foreign Minister Ignazio Cassis. At the same time, Cassis clarified that immunity would only apply to official peace talks and not private visits.
As I explained earlier, the Federal Council has already defined the legal situation after exploring the matter in depth last year. Procedures and rules were established and a framework outlined for, let's say, granting immunity to a person wanted under an international arrest warrant should that person arrive in Switzerland for a peace conference, not if they come for private reasons, but for reasons of peace, thanks to the efforts of Switzerland and international Geneva.
NATO defense chiefs will meet on Wednesday to address Europe's security in the face of Russia's war in Ukraine and fresh diplomatic efforts for peace.
Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said on social media that the talks will include NATO defense chiefs and Supreme Allied Commander General Alexis Grynkewicz, with Ukraine high on the agenda. Meanwhile, Downing Street confirmed that military planners from the Coalition of the Willing will soon meet their US counterparts to finalize security guarantees for Kyiv. The announcement followed a virtual meeting led by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, with over 30 allied nations participating. London said leaders also agreed to keep pressure on Vladimir Putin through sanctions until he shows readiness to end his invasion.
Oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline to Hungary and Slovakia have resumed following a temporary halt caused by a Ukrainian strike on an oil pumping station in Russia's Tambov region. As part of its military strategy, Ukraine has begun targeting Russian energy infrastructure to disrupt a key source of funding for the Kremlin's war efforts. Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó has condemned the strikes, saying that Ukraine should refrain from damaging energy facilities that are vital to countries not involved in the conflict. Both Hungary and Slovakia remain heavily reliant on Russian oil, much of which is delivered through the Druzhba pipeline. In the town of Góra Kalwaria near Warsaw, a group of Turkish Erasmus Plus exchange students and their guardians recently faced discrimination from some local residents. In response, the town authorities have made a heartfelt call urging the local community to reject all forms of intolerance. The students reported harassment in public spaces, with some filmed without their consent. For their safety, they were relocated to a hotel in Warsaw. In a statement, Góra Kalwaria Deputy Mayor Piotr Chmielewski condemned the behavior, emphasizing the importance of treating guests with kindness, acceptance, and security, values that Poles themselves expect when they travel abroad. For more on this story, visit our website at tvpworld.com. And that concludes this edition of World News. Thank you for joining us, and do stay with us because the bottom line is coming up next.